This is the Biz News Podcast, one-on-one conversations with experts in business and personal development.
Are housing prices just too high for you to consider investing in residential real estate? Tax attorney and real estate investor Brian Boyd says it might be time to rethink that. He says the post-pandemic white-hot real estate market, which saw sellers getting multiple offers, has cooled to a normalcy seen before COVID, making it easier for would-be investors. In this Bizgnus Interview podcast, Brian Boyd offers some examples from his own experiences. You are living in a very pleasant place in Tennessee, not so much rural anymore as suburban. How did you get there? What was the course of your career?
That's a good question. So I'm originally from Chattanooga, Tennessee. And after college, I went to business school, worked in Chattanooga for a while. Then I matriculated to law school, finished law school in 2004 at Samford University in Birmingham, Alabama. And my second year of law school, I decided I didn't want to be a trial attorney at all. So I'm really drawn to business and business matters. So I took a tax class because it was required, and I decided I really liked tax. So I applied to many schools, and I ended up going to Georgetown University Law Center for a second law degree. While I was at Georgetown, I was recruited to work for one of the big four accounting firms. So I stayed in Washington, D.C., and after a while, you kind of just get tired of doing tax returns and sitting in a cube. So I matriculated back to Tennessee and joined a law firm. And then in 2008, the world kind of fell apart for anything transactional, anything real estate, anything doing with money. It fell apart. And I was a transactional tax attorney. So I found myself in Nashville, Tennessee, without a job, and just started rebuilding my law practice. It was scary times, but I ended up picking up a few clients that were construction general contractors. And that kind of started my foray into real estate and understanding their world. And then I just overlaid my experience with tax on top of it. And that's how I started my investing.
Now, you have invested successfully in real estate, and you say it's a great place to make money. Are you talking about commercial real estate, residential real estate? If the latter, are you talking about multifamily or the wonderful single family industry, or what?
So that's a great question. I think residential or commercial is a wonderful opportunity. I don't know that office space is a great opportunity for an investment right now. Especially with the work from home that we have seen over the last few years. A lot of companies are downsizing their office space. But I personally invest in residential real estate. I have multifamily, I have single family, I have long term, I have short term. And it's been very rewarding both to me and to my clients that I advise. That was the impetus for writing the book, was because I was having the same conversations day after day after day after day. And it started out with me writing an FAQ to just hand my clients when they started asking me these questions. I'm like, well, here's what most people ask me. Take a look at it. If you have any questions about this, we can talk about it more. And that ended up turning into a blog, a twice a month blog for a real estate syndication company. And that in turn led to me fleshing out a book from these FAQs and these blogs. So that's turned into this book.
Well, tell us the name of the book and its thesis.
Okay. It's called Replace Your Income, A Lawyer's Guide to Finding, Funding, and Managing Real Estate. And it is taking the real estate investment world and breaking it apart into all the steps you need to do and all the things you need to understand. I love real estate investment books, but one of the drawbacks to most of these books is it doesn't tell you the nuts and bolts of how to do it. They're really good about getting you excited. They're really good about telling you need to understand all these formulas, but they don't tell you, well, how do I actually start doing this? Well, you start doing this by figuring out, what do you want to invest in? That was one of the first questions you asked me. Do you want to invest in residential or commercial? For me, I invest in residential. So, do you want to invest in long term or short term? Here are the pros and cons of each. So, that's how the book starts. Then it moves into, what do you do next? Well, you should probably put a team together. You should probably find a banker. You should probably find a real estate agent, a lawyer, a CPA, a bookkeeper, get an insurance agent. You're going to need one. Start putting your team together, because ultimately real estate investing is a team sport. Even though you're the captain, you have a team, and your team is going to help you be successful.
Sounds like you have as many team members as Tom Brady does on the Buccaneers.
Well, I don't think that really helped him this weekend against the Packers, did it? But to that point, I really believe that if we all stay in our lane, we can be successful. I don't need to be a banker. I don't need to be a bookkeeper or an accountant. That's why I have those people. And I think it's very important that the real estate investor focuses on finding that next deal, managing that property, doing the things to move his ball down the field, if we're going to stick with a sports analogy here. And the banker, the accountant, the bookkeeper, the real estate agent, they all have their roles. But your role as the investor is to find the deal and put everything in place to make a successful investment.
Well, a couple of things in that regard, then. We have heard the occasional news story of late that housing prices have plateaued. And would this then be a good time or a bad time to be investing in residential real estate?
I think if you're buying a primary residence, you should probably pause. But if you're buying to invest, now is a buyer's market. Now is a buyer's market, because you're no longer seeing sellers be able to take 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 offers within 24 hours and having the buyers bid against each other. What you're getting now is more of a return to normalcy, and that normalcy is pre-COVID. So even though the prices have elevated over the last few years, you're starting to get bargains again. You're starting to get deals in the true sense of deals, where you can negotiate things like appraisal reports, inspection reports, how long somebody wants to stay in the house until you close on it. You're starting to get back to the true negotiation. It's no longer all cash, who has the highest bid, close in 2 weeks. It's no longer that. It's more back to normal. So I would say, just like in stocks, buy the dip. We're moving down into more normal, normal range again. Like, they're no longer going for hundreds of thousands of dollars over, the asking price. Now you're starting to get the true value of the property. And along with that, the rents continue to increase. So one of the concerns a lot of people are having right now is, well, the Fed keeps raising interest rates. As an investor, you don't care. You don't. You don't worry about it, because if you run your numbers right and if you get the right deal, this asset will still be profitable to you. You will still see appreciation. You will still see profit. You will still get your tax benefits from this investment. There is no other investment vehicle out there that does what real estate does like this. And if you make sure to become an active investor, you will realize those benefits year over year, year after year, and you'll have an asset that's kicking out profits to you. Now, when the interest rates go down, and they will go back down, refinance that property, increase your profit margin, maybe take some equity out of that property and leverage up into other properties so you can scale. But now when people are getting shaken out of the market and you're not competing against them, go buy, go invest in real estate. Now's the time to do it.
Now, you say invest in real estate, and sometimes with some people that says, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to get calls at midnight that the water heater broke." One of the team members perhaps ought to be a property manager, don't you think?
I do think so, but here's what I would say for the first time real estate investor. If you buy a property and it's within an hour of you, I would self manage that property. Get your feet wet. Understand what it's like to actually manage a property. Understand what maintenance is going to be, what that property needs. And you may buy a brand new property that doesn't need much maintenance at all. But you typically do not get midnight phone calls. In fact, my wife and I, we use a platform called Buildium, and our tenants don't call us. They text us. And they know that, hey, these are the business hours. If there's an emergency, call a plumber, call somebody else. We'll take care of it tomorrow. But these are business hours. Call us between business hours. Now, there have been times when we've dealt with something after business hours, but it hasn't been terribly late. I think the latest we've ever gotten, a contact from a tenant has been 7, 8 o'clock at night. An AC went out in the middle of the summer in the South. You know that as well as I do. And it was very important for us to take care of that tenant because summers in the South are miserable. And that's why we have air conditioning. So we got somebody out there, we took care of it, it was dealt with. But that wasn't a terrible call. Um, in fact, if the toilet overflows, just say, hey, turn the water off and we'll send somebody out in the morning to take care of it for you.
Brian, were there ever moments when you or your wife or both of you said, "What have we gotten ourselves into?"
You know, there was. And I hate to laugh about it now because at the time it was terrifying. We purchased this portfolio down in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and we were told it was fully rented. The tenants were good. We closed on that and found out that half the houses were empty. They weren't collecting rents. And we were like, oh my gosh, how are we going to, service this note? And honestly, the ROI on that portfolio has been wonderful. Even with half the houses rented and the other half vacant at the time, it paid for the note. We've never had to come out of pocket to pay our note every month. In fact, that same portfolio we took over in March of this year when we started looking at the numbers and really looking at what the property manager was doing, and we became very upset. In fact, it required me to drive down to Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I knocked on every single tenant's door and spoke to every single one of them. And that resulted in us taking over the management. We poured $400,000 into that portfolio. We put new roofs on, new siding, new windows, new doors, new appliances. I evicted several tenants. We were able to take that portfolio from a poorly performing portfolio. Even though it was profitable, it wasn't profitable to the extent we were getting all of our rent every month. So let's use easy numbers. Let's say we were supposed to make $10,000 a month and our note was $3,000. Well, after we paid the property manager and we paid for his repairs, we were bringing in maybe $6,000 a month, which, okay, fine. But if it's supposed to bring in 10, why aren't we getting the 10, even with the property manager getting his cut? So after turning these houses, repairing these houses, we've raised rents about 70% across the board. So that portfolio that was only making $10,000 back then is now making $17,000 a month. And the tenants pay every month. They know us, we know them, they understand the situation. We've poured a lot of money into these houses, and they understand that, yeah, we're serious. We've done our part. Your part is to take care of the house and pay your rent. So we've really turned that portfolio around.
Brian, what would you like to add for our listeners and viewers that we haven't talked about?
One of the things I think your listeners and viewers need to understand is that the tax benefits of real estate investing are phenomenal. Between the depreciation, the deductions for interest that fall under Section 163 of the tax code, the business expense deductions under Section 162, the bonus depreciation available to you under 168K, these things will offset the income that you're making from your properties, and they will create a tax loss. So even though you're cash positive, you will create a tax loss. That tax loss in turn means you're paying less money to the federal government every year, and you're keeping that money, which allows you to keep that money and reinvest it and reinvest it and reinvest it year after year after year. This is a phenomenal aspect of real estate investing. And if you look at the tax code and you understand the tax code, our tax code is built around encouraging people to invest in real estate. It's true, it's out there. Look at Section 169, 168K. These are built just for real estate. And it really happens. It happens year after year. And I would rather your investors and your listeners and your viewers to keep more of their money so they can invest later on. Even if you want to invest in other things, the stock market or, commercial real estate or even life insurance. Now you have the money that allows you to do that. And as we all go into our golden years, we would like to keep residual income, and real estate allows you to do that.
And one last thing, and perhaps one of the more important things, do you have a website where people can get more information about you?
Yes, sir. So for the book, it's www.briantboyd.com. And my law firm website is www.boydwills.com.
You've been watching the Biz News Podcast. We welcome your input. Send your email to editor@biznews.com. Thanks for watching.